Baishan was very efficient, and since Han Sen all the information of Heresy Mantra the second day. Since Heresy Mantra had not been adapted into a hyper-Geno art, it was written in an ancient language and was very hard to read. It was an age when everyone practiced martial arts. Most people knew some terms in the ancient language, and so did Han Senator. However, Heresy Mantra was still beyond his understanding. Luckily, the professors that studied Heresy Mantra before had left a lot of footnotes, and the previous volunteers had provided notes and data as well, which had helped Han Sen greatly. Bai Shan also gave Han Sen some tips, which would help Han Sen avoid making mistakes when practicing Heresy Mantra. It seemed that Bai Shan had also done profound research on this ancient martial art. Han Sen did not rush to start practicing. Instead, he memorized all the information first. He did not know how long it would take for him to reach the next shelter after leaving Green Shelter. Unable to use any electronic reading device, Han Sen decided to save everything in his mind so that he would not need to carry all the documents. Before he set out, Han Sen called Lin Beifeng. When learning Han Sen was to travel through 6 shelters or more, Lin Beifeng exclaimed, "Han Sen, how did you end up there?" "Never mind how I ended up there. Are you interested in doing the beast soul business again?" Han Sen felt it was hard to explain and skipped the whole story. "Yes, of course. Only a dumbass would turn down gold. When will you leave?" "Let me do some research on it first," said Lin Beifeng excitedly. "Tomorrow morning," replied Han Sen casually. In fact, Huangfu Pingqing also came to him, wanting to do the same business. However, with Huangfu, he must sign an official contract with Ares Martial Hall and stay for a while in each shelter to collaborate with Huangfu Pingqing's men. Feeling it was too much trouble, Han Sen turned down Huangfu's offer and decided to make money with Lin Beifeng. They probably stayed up all night and sent Han Sen the information he collected before dawn. He also transferred $1 billion to Han Sen's account. "Han Sen, I don't have enough time to raise money, and this is what's left in my allowance. Spend it however you like. I have collected the information of all the unique beast souls of each shelter you will pass, but it might not be thorough." Lin Beifeng had a lot of trust in Han Sen. "You're giving me so much money at once. Aren't you afraid I might disappear?" Han Sen did not expect so much money from Lin Beifeng. He thought Lin Beifeng might give him $12 million or $100 million at best. "This is nothing. If I did not piss my dad off recently, I could invest 10 times this much." Lin grinned. "And of course I trust you. If you say the word, I could give you 10 billion for free as long as you remember me as a friend." Han Sen took the money and went to Green Shelter, deciding to purchase some beast souls before he went to the next shelter. Han Sen did not want to waste too much time. He wanted to go back to Steel Armor Shelter as soon as possible, otherwise the sacred blood creature he had been feeding would go to waste. According to the information Lin Beifeng gave him, Han Sen purchased lots of beast souls and went to the next shelter. Han Sen had searched on the Skynet to test the authenticity of the map Huangfu Pingqing gave him. Although the information online was not as clear as the map, he was able to tell that the map was indeed correct. In addition to traveling, Han Sen had been practicing the first phase of Heresy Mantra, preserving vital energy. Heresy Mantra was different from Jade Skin in that it did not enhance one's physique overall, but focused on the strength in blood. Blood came from the heart and went through the veins in the whole body. Hence, by practicing Heresy Mantra, one's heart and veins would become stronger. If the heart could be compared to an engine, then its horsepower could be improved by as much as 10 times after one practiced Heresy Mantra. This was merely an explanation for dummies. Even the professors at the St. Hall could not understand how it actually worked. After many researches and experiments, although no one had successfully reached the first phase of Heresy Mantra, people now understood that Heresy Mantra was a process to strengthen the heart, veins, and blood. One had to be able to withstand the power produced in the process of practice, otherwise one would explode. Preserving vital energy was the fundamental step of practicing Heresy Mantra. If it was not done correctly, the other 3 phases would cause one's heart to explode. Han Sen did not dare to slack a little bit when practicing Heresy Mantra. He fully prepared himself before he even started. Once the practice started, it could be run automatically during walking and sleeping unless stopped on purpose. After several days, Han Sen started to feel the sense of hunger Bai Shan described. No matter how much he ate, he would still feel hungry, not only in his stomach, but his entire body. Among all the footnotes, Han Sen had noticed an interesting hypothesis. The reason for the hunger during the practice was that heresy mantra needed a huge amount of energy to improve the genes that controlled the heart and veins, while the nutrition contained in food was not enough. In this case, the entire body was under a lot of pressure, and all the energy went to support those specific body parts, which was why other parts of the body had basically no energy. This theory was not corroborated. The previous volunteers were consuming most advanced nutrition solutions every day, which was still not enough to balance the hunger, which made people question the theory. This is incredible hunger. Riding on Meowth, Han Sen was about to starve. He had eaten more than 10 pounds of mutant meat. If he continued to eat, his stomach would probably explode. However, in addition to the feeling of hunger, Han Sen also felt energetic. The two contrastive feelings filled his body, which made Han Sen understand why the previous volunteers would give up. It was definitely a cruel torture. As Han Sen practiced more, both feelings got stronger. Han Sen had hunted a lot of mutant creatures on his way and ate their meat, but it did not help. While feeling the incredible hunger, Han Sen also felt his strength was improving rapidly and even his heart was beating stronger. On the map from Huangfu Pingqing, all the paths had been tested by different teams in Ares Martial Hall, so none of the paths was dangerous. Even the riskier parts of the paths were marked clearly, and solutions or tips were always provided. After Han Sen was on the road himself, he came to understand how precious the map was. Its value, like Huangfu Pingqing said, was well beyond 5 mutant beast souls. With this map, one could easily start to trade among these shelters, so the map was a highly valuable trade secret. Han Sen did not know what was the reason for Huangfu Pingqing to give him this map. By taking this map, he did owe her one. After half a year, Han Sen traveled past 5 shelters. He did not even want to think back on this period of time. It was not because of all the risks and dangers on the way, but mainly because the terrible feelings he had when practicing heresy mantra. Han Sen was devastated in the first 2 months when he just started practicing. In the end, he still made it and finished the first phase. Both his heart and veins were strengthened significantly. The main reason for his success was that whenever he felt the hunger was getting unbearable, he would practice Jade Skin. Then the coolness would flow in his body and ease his hunger. The hunger suddenly disappeared after he finished the first phase. However, in 3 months, Han Sen's weight dropped from 170 pounds to 110 pounds. Even his bones were sticking out. Because none of the previous volunteers had gone this far, Han Sen was not sure if his experience was unique. After finishing the first phase, Han Sen started to practice the second phase of heresy mantra, seeing through the mirage. Then, Han Sen felt his body was like a withered plant receiving water. After eating lots of mutant meat, he started to gain his weight back. The hunger was gone. So were the contrastive senses. In his practice, he felt more and more fulfilled. It seemed that his entire body was becoming stronger, and his current cardiac functions were much stronger than a normal person. Half a month before returning to Steel Armor Shelter, Han Sen finished the second phase. At that moment, he suddenly discovered how powerful heresy mantra was. He was almost certain that if he was able to complete all 4 phases of heresy mantra, he should have the ability to kill a super creature. Maybe he did not even need to finish everything. When he completed the 3rd phase longevity, he should be able to herd a super creature, at least the baby golden growler. However, when Han Sen started to practice the 3rd phase, his progress became much slower. He could still feel he was moving forward, but he could no longer complete the 3rd phase in 3 months. Han Sen estimated that he would probably be able to finish the 3rd phase in a year. After returning to the Steel Armor Shelter, Han Sen had already maxed out on his mutant geno points. However, because he chose to follow the safe paths, Han Sen did not have the chance to hunt any sacred blood creatures. He did not feel bad about that, because based on what he could do now, it was no longer difficult for him to kill sacred blood creatures. After finishing the 2nd phase, Han Sen's level was no longer limited to the unevolved. He was even stronger than Qin Xian, who had completed atomic fission. Most sacred blood creatures would not stand a blow from Han Sen. With the miraculous black crystal, Han Sen was not worried about his sacred geno points. All it mattered to him at this point was how to find and kill super creatures. To max out on super Geno points was Han Sen's new goal. Sacred Geno points no longer deserved his attention. On his way, Han Sen traded different beast souls whenever he reached a shelter, which brought him a great fortune. If he were willing to spend more time, he would have made a lot more. Even so, he had earned a profit of more than 600 million. In addition to that, he still had a lot of unsold beast souls in steel armor shelter. Han Sen was sure that his cut was at least 600 million. At this point, Han Sen did not have too much desire for money. If money could not be turned into beast souls or things he needed, then it was nothing but a number. Although 600 million was not a huge number, which was not even enough to purchase a spaceship, for Han Sen, it was enough money for him to support his family. After returning to steel armor shelter, Han Sen came back to his own room immediately. He had been feeding the cloud beast for over a year, and it was a huge waste of time. When Han Sen went back to his room and saw the cloud beast, he could not believe what he saw. The cloud beast was there and had evolved, but it seemed somehow different from the sacred blood cloud beasts he used to eat. This cloud beast almost turned transparent and was surrounded in an aura. Why does this one look so different? Staring at the cloud beast, Han Sen suddenly had a thought that gave him a chill. Han Sen killed the cloud beast as fast as he could and heard a voice that almost made himself jump. Super creature cloud beast killed.
No beast soul gun.
Eat its life essence to gain 0 to 10 super Geno points. Meat inedible. It works like this. So it works like this? Han Sen was almost speechless. He could not believe in his wildest dream that the black crystal could be so miraculous that it could even produce a super creature. Before Han Sen could dissect the body of the cloud beast, it gradually dissolved. A black crystal and a white one fell on the floor. The black crystal was the one Han Sen found, and the white one was about the size of a pigeon egg, which was the life essence of the cloud beast. Han Sen could not believe that the seemingly ordinary black crystal could produce super creatures that the entire mankind failed to hunt. Han Sen became wild with joy as he finally had an access to super Geno points and possibly super beast souls. If he had gained a super beast soul, maybe he could kill super creatures before he finished the 4th phase of heresy mantra. Han Sen quickly went to the market, bought another cloud beast, and fed it with the black crystal. He was very curious to know how long it took for a cloud beast to evolve into a super creature. It took a creature 3 months to evolve into a sacred blood one, and for it to further evolve into a super creature, Han Sen believed it took longer. However, it would take a year and a half at most, since it took that long for the previous cloud beast to complete evolution. After finishing doing that, Han Sen started to savor the life essence of the cloud beast. Life essence of super creature cloud beast eaten. 1 super Geno point gained. Life essence of super creature cloud beast eaten. 1 super Geno point gained. Han Sen heard the continuous voice and felt on top of the world. As an incredible strength filled his body, Han Sen felt his bones and flesh were developing again, as if he were a child. In the end, the cloud beast provided 9 super Geno points to Han Senator at this point. He had 19 super Geno points and a leap in his physique. Han Sen found Lin Beifeng and transferred the money and beast souls to him. He did not want any distractions in his life, because his only goal was to evolve with his super Geno points maxed out. The first super evolver in all humans. Han Sen scoffed at the thought of sacred blood aristocrats. An evolver with his super Geno points maxed out should be considered a royalty for sure. Han Sen could only imagine what kind of benefits he and his family could gain if he evolved with his super Geno points maxed out. His only concern was that it took too long for a super creature to be produced. According to his experience, it should take about 9 months to 1 year for a creature to evolve into a super creature. Although it was great news, Han Sen did not want to wait that long. At this point, he needed at least 10 super creatures or more to max out his super Geno points, which meant he would have to wait more than a decade. The only solution was to hunt the super creatures in God's sanctuary, for which Han Sen must have enough time to improve his ability. While continuing to practice the 3rd phase of heresy mantra, Han Sen used one of the 5S class St. Hall licenses he got from Bai Ishan to buy a hyper Geno art called Panorama. Panorama was the most renowned hyper-geno art in the St. Hall, also known as the Encyclopedia of Martial Arts. It's included many techniques from different schools. In the beginning, the St. Hall wanted to develop a martial art that included all the fundamentals so that everybody could easily improve their physique. However, as more and more techniques were added, the hyper-geno art itself became more and more demanding on those who practiced it. Everyone's body had different features, and different martial arts had different requirements for one's body, which was why no one could practice every single martial art. For example, if one was lacking in strength, then one would likely be restrained from practicing the martial arts that focused on strength. Panorama was a collection of all sorts of fundamental martial arts, which was why it was almost impossible to find someone to practice it. Later on, the St. Hall divided Panorama into different subjects and categories, which made it convenient for people to choose the martial arts they could practice. The original version of Panorama was used by the St. Hall as a dictionary. Every time someone had some new findings, they would also be added to Panorama so that it would be more convenient for future research. Many professors from the St. Hall would use Panorama this way, which made it become a true encyclopedia. The license needed to purchase the original version of Panorama also became more and more advanced, since it contained a lot of old and new knowledge. At this point, one would need an S-Class license to buy it. Also, the license must be a universal one, which could only come from a staff member. Although Panorama had its own Geno solutions, the St. Hall did not guarantee success of practicing Panorama. After all, it was a hyper-Geno art that required things beyond what Geno solutions could make up for. The reason Han Sen chose Panorama was that he believed if he wanted to hunt super creatures, the least he could do was to adjust his physique to the best and eliminate all his weaknesses. Han Sen did not receive the best education when he grew up, so his development was not balanced. He was good at certain things, but not so much at others. Therefore, Han Sen wanted to start from zero and achieve an ideal state in all aspects so that he could prepare himself for hunting super creatures. Time was a scary thing, especially in such an interstellar age. Each moment, many shocking incidents happened on the planets occupied by mankind. Many strong men fell, and many new stars were born. In 2 years, too many things had happened and too many things had been forgotten. There were people who were not as forgetful, such as Jing Jia. Many people admired the Jings for the fact that they had a genius like Jing Jiwu. However, only those who truly knew the family knew. Jing Jiwu had a more brilliant brother named Jing Jia. Although Jing Jia was Jing Jiwu's little brother, those who had met him could only describe him as impressive. Jing Jiwu was a monster who could reach the top in every field, and his brother was someone who could reach beyond the top. The brother's grandfather had hired a lot of martial arts professors to instruct the two of them. Jing Jiwu was able to listen to and learn from all the professors, while Jing Jia could not have the same professor for over 3 months. Jing Jia had so many questions and thoughts that even the professor would be rendered speechless. All his professors quit within 3 months, because they believed they had nothing that they could teach the kid. Even better than his older brother, almost everyone in the family believed Jing Jia was the more appropriate candidate to take over the family business, except for one person, which was Jing Jia himself. In the eyes of Jing Jia, Jing Jiwu was his idol. Jing Jia was Jing Jiwu's biggest fan. Jing Jia would always go to every game of Jing Jiwu's. Even when he did not have time to go to the site, he would always watch the game in front of the smart device. Jing Jia would watch his brother's games over and over. In his eyes, his older brother was always sparkling like diamond. However, Jing Jiwu lost to Han Sen in the archery tournament. Jing Jia was not able to watch it at the venue, but became more and more angry after he watched the video of the game repeatedly. He believed that Jing Jiwu only lost to Han Sen because of the tactics picked by his coach. If it had been a fair game, Jing Jia believed that Jing Jiwu would have won for sure. At this point, Jing Jia had every desire to beat Han Sen and tell him that he was not even as good as the big toe of his old brother. Spinning arrow? What is so fancy about that? Jing Jia turned down all the invites from the Alliance Central Military Academy and other famous schools, and chose to come to Blackhawk Military Academy. Of course, the boy was not here to join Han Sen's team, but wanted to beat him and tell him he was not nearly as good as Jing Jiwu. Jing Jia was an elegant young man. When he was enrolled, no one knew that he was the brother of Jing Jiwu, but a lot of girls had already fallen in love with him for his looks. Soon, Jing Jia proved that he was not just a pretty boy. Wanting to compete with Han Sen, Jing Jia participated in every item that Han Sen was once in, including warframes, black and white boxing, archery, and Hand of God. Jing Jia won the championship in all these items and became the brightest star in Black Hawk. Since Han Sen was already a senior student, he no longer needed to participate in different societies, which was why he had quit the school archery team. In fact, since Han Sen came back to Black Hawk, people could barely see him. Jing Jia wanted an opportunity to beat Han Sen, but found that he could barely find the guy. Han Sen was spending a lot of time in God's sanctuary and seldom appeared on campus. Jing Jia, I got a message from a friend that Han Sen just came back from God's sanctuary and was returning to room 304, said Su Fei excitedly, running toward Jing Jia. Many friends of Jing Jia knew that he wanted to challenge Han Sen, who was the legend of Black Hawk. Although Han Sen only participated in one military league competition and only won one championship, in the eyes of his schoolmates, Han Sen was the legend. Although Jing Jia was doing great, before he actually beat Han Sen, most people still thought he would fall short. However, everyone was willing to see such a challenge. A fight between Jing Jia and Han Sen should be great to watch. Thank you, Jing Jia said to Su Fei with a smile, and walked slowly to Han Sen's dormitory. Su Fei and his other friends followed Jing Jia excitedly. They all wanted to watch this incredible fight between the old legend and new star. When Jing Jia walked across the campus, he attracted a lot of attention because of his good looks. Very soon, Jing Jia arrived at the path which Han Sen must go through to reach his dormitory and waited for him there. Seeing a figure approaching, Jing Jia narrowed his eyes in excitement. Very soon, he would be able to beat Han Sen and give his older brother justice. The thought made Jing Jia so excited that his cheeks became red.
Han Sen.
When the figure came closer, Jing Jia asked, "Yes, you are?" Han Sen regarded Jing Jia and was sure that he did not know this boy. "My name is Jing Jia, a freshman in the archery department. I hope you could teach me a thing or two in archery when you have time," said Jing Jia with a smile. "Brother, I am so sorry, but I haven't really had much time recently." Han Sen had not heard the name Jing Jia and thought Jing Jia was one of his fans. Han Sen patted Jing Jia on the shoulder and left. Everyone was dumbstruck, almost unable to believe what they saw and heard. Although Jing Jia was a freshman, he was the champion in the Archery Society, the Warframe Society, and the Hand of God Society, a true star on campus. However, Han Sen treated him as an ordinary freshman, which was quite shocking. Since Han Sen came back to Black Hawk, he had invested all his energy into practicing the third phase of Heresy Mantra as well as Panorama, which had consumed a lot of his time. In order to kill super creatures, Han Sen did not care about anything else other than improving his combat skills. Although Jing Jia became really popular in Black Hawk, Han Sen did not even know of him. Even if Han Sen did, he probably would not care. Among the unevolved, there was no one worth Han Sen's attention. Seeing Han Sen brushing past him, Jing Jia suddenly said, "Jing Jiwu is my older brother." Han Sen stopped and turned around. He looked at Jing Jia in surprise and asked, "You are Jing Jiwu's little brother?" The reason that Han Sen was surprised was that he remembered Jing Jiwu as a strong opponent. At the time being, Jing Jiwu was indeed much stronger than himself. Han Sen did not expect that Jing Jiwu's little brother would be a Black Hawk student. It was also the first time for Su Fei and other freshmen to learn the fact that Jing Jia was Jing Jiwu's younger brother. Although it had been 2 years since Jing Jiwu graduated, every freshman of Black Hawk still knew the name Jing Jiwu, since he was always brought up in the history of Black Hawk as Han Sen's opponent. Because of that, Han Sen was still remembered after 2 years, and so was Jing Jiwu. Su Fei and others did not realize that Jing Jia was Jing Jiwu's younger brother, and they suddenly understood why Jing Jia would want to challenge Han Sen. "Yes. Do you think we can compete in archery now?" Jing Jia asked Han Sen with a smile. He did not take Han Sen lightly but was confident that he could beat Han Sen. Without thinking, Han Sen grinned and said, "That sounds boring. Let's just forget about it. Give my best to Jing Jiwu." Han Sen left without a second thought, leaving Jing Jia dumbstruck and a bit humiliated. Han Sen talked to him like talking to a child. Jing Jia felt like he wasn't even taken as a deserving opponent of Han Sen's. However, Han Sen did not mean to make Jing Jia feel this way. He did treat Jing Jia like a boy, because in fact, Jing Jia was 3 or 4 years younger than himself. Also, Jing Jia was Jing Jiwu's younger brother. If Jing Jiwu were here, he would treat Jing Jiwu like a serious opponent, but in the case of the little brother, not so much. If he had time, Han Sen would prefer to spend it on practicing panorama. Among the unevolved, few deserved his time. Many people who could match him, such as Lin Feng and Qin Xian, had all gone to Second God's Sanctuary. At this point, Han Sen was not at all interested in people remaining in First God's Sanctuary. He only wanted to improve his combat skills as fast as possible so that he could hunt super creatures. Han Sen walked into his dormitory, and Jing Jia did not try to stop him again. Jing Jia smiled and murmured to himself, "You will not be able to run from me." The news that Jing Jia was Jing Jiwu's brother was soon known by everyone in Blackhawk. Many students were very interested in the topic. Some girls even named Jing Jia's endeavor the new Hamlet. I knew it. Why would someone as good as Jing Jia choose Blackhawk? It turns out that he's avenging his brother. Our genius refused to accept the challenge. That is so disappointing. Of course he doesn't dare to face Jing Jia. If he lost to someone younger than him, he would lose his face. Since the archery tournament, there seems to be something wrong with the genius. He did not even participate in the semi-annual assessment, and I heard that his makeup assessment score was just average. The genius has fallen. Jing Jia will rule Blackhawk instead. In Blackhawk, rumors about Han Sen being weaker than Jing Jia were spread wider and wider, and the person who orchestrated the rumors was Jing Jia himself. At this point, Jing Jia was playing Hand of God joyfully. Jing Jia did not care about his reputation, whether good or bad. However, he understood that some military school students would defend their own reputation with life. So, Jing Jia was merely doing what it took for Han Sen to accept his challenge. The game of Hand of God ended. Jing Jia's opponent was Tiandan, the current president of Hand of God Society, who was also the best player on campus, after Han Sen and Jing Jia. 20 points? Doesn't seem that difficult. Jing Jia exited the game. He was only trying to repeat whatever Han Sen had achieved in Blackhawk, so that he could prove that Han Sen was not that good after all. Jing Jia was waiting for Han Sen, getting mad at all the rumors. He believed next time when he challenged Han Sen again, the answer would not be no. Even better, Han Sen might challenge him. However, what Jing Jia did not know was that although Han Sen learned about the rumors from his roommates, the senior students did not care about it at all. In Han Sen's eyes, Jing Jia's tricks were so childish that they did not deserve any his time for energy. I hope I can win once today. Han Sen chose a holographic device in the training hall on campus and logged in an online combat platform. The combat platform that Han Sen entered was named Gladiator. As an unofficial combat platform, it would not categorize the players based on their status like an official one would. On the Gladiator platform, players were able to choose to enter the unevolved section or the evolver section. Since it was not operated by the Alliance, personal information was unknown to the operator. That was exactly the reason that Han Sen chose Gladiator. Here, he was able to enter the evolver section and compete with evolvers. As good as Han Sen was, he could gain nothing fighting the unevolved. In order to practice panorama, he would enter Gladiator to fight evolvers whenever he had time, which helped him practice his skills and learn things from others. However, his record was not that good. Since entering Gladiator half a year ago, Han Sen had won 4 times in total. The first time, he encountered an unevolved person who clicked into the wrong section. The second time, his opponent did not finish the combat and had to go take care of something in real life. So, Han Sen have only won twice really. As for his losses, Han Sen did not even bother to count, but the number was for sure 4-digit. At this point, his fitness index had passed 20, which was the best of the best among the unevolved. Very few of the unevolved persons could raise even one indicator above 20, let alone the overall index. It was easy to imagine how strong Han Sen was. This number was also under the condition of Han Sen not using Heresy Mantra. When Han Sen used Heresy Mantra, his strength would be even more impressive. However, although it seemed a great number of them on the unevolved, An index of 20 was too weak among evolvers. For those who were able to hunt mutant creatures in the second god's sanctuary, it was very easy for them to reach an index of 20. When the unevolved became evolvers, they would be awarded a certain strength. The more geno points they had, the better the strength would be. Those who evolved with their sacred geno points maxed out were normally awarded something called a sacred body, which would very likely double their fitness index. As for those who evolved with a low geno point count, their improvement through the evolution was also limited. Normally speaking, those who evolved with their mutant geno points maxed out would have a fitness index of nearly 20 after evolution. With some geno points gained in second god's sanctuary, their fitness index could reach above 20, which was why the fitness index of 20 was nothing among evolvers. Han Sen did not know what kind of sacred body he would be awarded if he evolved with super geno points maxed out, but he was sure that it would be much stronger than someone maxed out on just sacred geno points. The two evolvers that Han Sen beat before must be newbies in evolvers. Their fitness index should be around 20. In Gladiator, few players were as weak as this. The weaker players usually choose to play on the official platform. Those who chose Gladiator were usually skilled players. In addition, Gladiator was the property of Ares Martial Hall. Many students in the Martial Hall would fight here as well, who were usually advanced. Han Sen learned about Gladiator from Huangfu Pingqing, who had graduated from Blackhawk and entered Second God's Sanctuary. Han Sen hadn't seen her in a long while. After entering the Evolver section in Gladiator, Han Sen chose to be randomly matched. He did not have a specific purpose in mind, but wanted to learn from opponents of different styles, which would serve as a good supplement to Panorama. Very soon, Han Sen was matched with someone and sent to a scene mimicking the Colosseum, which was the classic themes in Gladiator. Standing at the entrance, Han Sen was able to see his opponent's profile while waiting for the countdown. His opponent's ID was slaying all with double blades, which sounded fierce. He was a man around 30 years old, holding a pair of shamshears. A player using double blades for sure, but Han Sen did not know if he could slay all. Han Sen thought about it, switched to the weapon interface, and picked a pair of shamshears similar to the one his opponent used. Han Sen's goal was to learn from his opponent, so he would always choose the exact same weapon as used by his opponent. If his opponent did not have a weapon, he would choose not to use any. Slaying all with double blades was observing Han Sen as well. He evolved into Second God's Sanctuary before long, and it was the first time he entered Gladiator, so his record was 0 win and 0 loss. Seeing Han Sen was empty-handed first, and then chose to use the same weapon as he did, slaying all with double blades, was slightly offended. In his eyes, Han Sen was showing contempt to a newbie. However, Han Sen did not pay any attention to his record and did not even know that he was new. It was what Han Sen did to all his opponents. Boy, you will pay for your arrogance.
Han Senes opponents smirked and checked Han Senes profile.
Han Sen's ID was a soldier on warship, because he would give anything to work on the warship where Ji Yanran served, even just as a soldier. However, his opponents would often think that he was really a soldier serving on a warship. Slaying all with double blades, thought the same and scoffed. 4 wins and more than 1,000 losses. How dare you, a mere soldier, despise me? I will teach you a lesson soon. Slaying all with double blades was very confident in his shamshir skills. Having practiced since childhood, he was especially good with double blades. Although he had not been an evolver for long, his weapon skills were among the top among evolvers. Even in Ares Martial Hall, not many could reach the level he did with double blades. After the countdown, Han Sen and Slaying All with Double Blades entered the game. Slaying All with Double Blades licked his lips and stared at Han Senator. He thought, if I cannot even beat this rookie, then I have wasted all these years I spent on practicing my shamshears. Slaying All with Double Blades was holding one shamshir in each hand with one facing forward and the other facing backward. This unique gesture made his technique stand out. Without saying anything, Slaying All with Double Blades rushed toward Han Sen as fierce as thunder.
Han Sen regarded him curiously.
It was the first time Han Sen had seen someone holding weapons this way. Han Sen did not understand such techniques and was still holding his shamshirs the ordinary way, but he had also learned a lot about using double blades from the skeleton, which would be as strong as any S-class blade skills. However, Han Sen did not just fight for victory. He intended to learn from different styles so as to improve his understanding of panorama. Therefore, Han Sen would never try to end the game quickly and would always observe as much as possible. This time, his opponent had a skill that was both swift and fierce. The double blades kept coming in both directions, making it impossible to defend himself.
Han Sen became exhilarated.
His opponent was not too much stronger than him in fitness index. Han Sen estimated the number should be around 25, higher than his, but not much higher. However, his opponent had an incredible weapon skill, which made the person the ideal opponent of Han Sen's. If his opponent was too strong in physique and had a fitness index around 30 or 40, Han Sen would lose too fast and would not be able to learn too much from him. Someone like Slaying All with Double Blades was a bit stronger than Han Sen in physique, but incredibly good at techniques. Han Sen became focused and fought him with what he learned from the skeleton. Although his opponent was at an advantage, he was never able to cause any fatal damage. Slaying All with Double Blades became more and more astonished. A soldier on warship was clearly inferior to himself in fitness index, but he had never seen such weird skills. Every blow from Han Sen and every step he took would cost his opponent lots of trouble. Slaying All with Double Blades felt that everything was disordered, which confused him as when to attack. Slaying All with Double Blades knew that he was stronger than his opponent and had better skills, but there was nothing he could do to win. Although he was at an advantage, he did not feel good. What kind of skill is this? He no longer thought Han Sen only picked the Shamshirs to mock him, but believed Han Sen was himself a double blades master. However, that was only the beginning. Although Han Sen was lacking in physique compared to his opponent, his incredible double blade skills made up for his speed and strength, making it impossible for Slaying All with Double Blades to beat him. I can't continue like this, otherwise I will really lose. I can't imagine how strong people are in Gladiator. Even someone with only 4 wins and more than 1,000 losses had such awe-inspiring skills. I have to show all I have now. Feeling shocked, Han Sen's opponents did not dare to reserve anything and turned the tips of both his Shamshirs backward. 13 slashes were one of the hardest techniques to learn. Very few people could actually use 13 slashes, which was one of the secret skills in Ares' martial hall. The reason that Slaying All with Double Blades could learn 13 slashes was that his father worked as one of the administrator of Ares' martial hall. As he used 13 slashes, Han Sen was suddenly under a huge crisis. The two Shamshirs kept getting faster and weirder. After fending off 7 blows, Han Sen could not block the 8th slash. He stepped forward and dodged the slash, but the 9th attack cut his skin open. They were both in a simulated system, so there was no blood. The system notified that Han Sen's health went down by 27%. If the health went down to 0, then the player would be kicked out of the game and deemed the loser. Unless the player was beheaded or driven through the heart by weapon, the game would end when one's health was drained. If it were in real life, Han Sen would have been killed by now. Han Sen's eyes lit up and used Sparticle to avoid the next attack from his opponent. The Shamshirs were like devil's fangs, dancing away in his opponent's hands, leaving one injury after another on Han Sen's body. However, his opponent did not even feel good about it. Although he had injured Han Sen, he still felt incredibly constrained. Each time he thought he was going to finish Han Sen off, he merely left a small cut on Han Sen. Very soon, he finished 13 slashes. Although he left many marks on Han Sen's health still only went down by 70%, so it would still be a while until Han Sen was kicked out. Damn it! If this is the real world, he would have bled to death by now, cursed Han Sen's opponent. This was exactly why Han Sen chose to practice in Gladiator. He would not need any time to heal before going into the next fight, which was ideal for him to accumulate combat experience. Since I could not kill you with 13 slashes, I will do it all over again, Slaying All with Double Blades decided. Han Sen only had 30% of his health left, so he would not be able to last another round. Holding the Shamshirs backward, Slaying All with Double Blades again used the secret skill, 13 slashes. Han Sen's eyes were as calm as a deep pool, reflecting each and every move of his opponent. Slaying All with Double Blades used 13 slashes the second time, intending to beat Han Sen as soon as possible. However, he very soon found out that it was not as simple as he thought it would be. Although Han Sen's speed and strength did not increase, slaying all with double blades felt like it became significantly more difficult for him to hit Han Sen. The first time he used 13 slashes, he managed to cut Han Sen on the 9th blow. However, this time, only the 10th slash started to leave a small cut on Han Sen, and the last 3 slashes did not work too well either. After the 13 slashes, Han Sen still had 11% of his health remaining, much more than his opponent thought. Slaying all with double blades could not understand why the second round was so much less effective. However, all he could think about at this point was to get rid of Han Sen as soon as possible. No matter what, after a third round, Han Sen would be out for sure. In the third round, Han Sen was able to block the first 11 slashes, and only 2 out of 13 slashes managed to hurt Han Sen, taking away another 5% of his health. Although Han Sen only had 5% of his health left, to his opponent's shock, none of the slashes could hurt Han Sen in the fourth round.
Han Sen grinned.
Panorama included all sorts of fundamental techniques. Despite that they were not advanced, they served as the basics of the more advanced skills. He had fought slaying all with double blades for a long time, so he had already gained much understanding of how his opponent used force. After that, Han Sen was even more excited to learn the ultimate double blade skill, 13 slashes. This fight was the best one for Han Sen in the last 6 months. Most of his opponents before were much stronger than him in the fitness index. A difference of 10 points in the index was decisive at this stage. In Han Sen's previous opponents, most people had a fitness index over 30, which made it very hard for Han Sen to learn from them. This time, Han Sen had the luck to encounter an opponent from whom he could learn a lot. In addition, their small difference in fitness level also bought Han Sen enough time to learn 13 slashes. The key to 13 slashes was its smoothness. There was hardly any pause between one slash and the next. 13 slashes seemed to be one. Once cut by one slash, it would be impossible to avoid the following. There were also some tutorials on how to achieve smoothness between movements in Panorama, which Han Sen had practiced before. However, before the fight, he was not sure how to execute the tutorial in real combat. Having watched his opponent using 13 slashes, Han Sen eventually understood what it took to achieve the smoothness. While Han Sen was learning, his opponent widened his eyes. Although Han Sen had only 5% of his health left, he could not hit Han Sen again whatsoever. He had used 13 slashes a dozen times, yet failed to harm Han Sen. After Han Sen forced his opponent to step back, he tossed the shamshears in the air and caught them with their tips facing backward like his opponent did. Slaying all with double blades was dazed seeing Han Sen copying him. The next moment, he became mad. Because Han Sen had made his first slash, which looked exactly like the first move of the 13 slashes. Slaying all with double blades wanted to kill Han Sen at this point. He was almost sure that this guy was trying to humiliate him. If Han Sen only chose the same shamshears as he did, he could understand it. However, Han Sen was even trying to imitate his 13 slashes. Slaying all with double blades bristled and despised his opponent at the same time. 13 slashes was by no means easy to copy. He had started to lay the foundation since he was 10 years old, and was only able to start practicing 13 slashes since he entered God's sanctuary at 16. Even with many years of foundation, it still took slaying all with double blades more than a month to learn 13 slashes. Now his opponent had only watched it a dozen times. It should have been impossible for Han Sen to imitate the skill. Slaying all with double blades forced himself to calm down and realized it was a great opportunity in disguise. Since it was impossible for his opponent to copy his moves, he could take the chance to beat Han Sen. Based on his understanding of 13 slashes, once Han Sen made a small mistake when trying to use 13 slashes, he could easily get rid of Han Sen. With 5% of health left, Han Sen could easily be eliminated with one mistake. Here it comes. Slaying all with double blades held back his anger and watched Han Sen's moves closely, ready to give him a deadly blow once he saw a mistake. Unfortunately, slaying all with double blades underestimated his opponent. Although Han Sen had never practiced 13 slashes, he had put a lot of effort in practicing the smoothness between his moves. Lacking a point of reference, he had never been able to use it well. Having watched 13 slashes, Han Sen had fully understood the essence of smoothness so that he could easily master his opponent's skill. From a private holographic device, Huang Yulei walked out absent-minded. He could not believe what had happened to him in the past hour. Someone who was not his match to begin with not only turned the game around, but also used his secret skill 13 slashes to beat him. Huang Yulei was simply speechless.
Impossible.
How is this possible? No matter how talented he is, it is impossible for him to learn 13 slashes in just an hour. Especially the application of the smoothness, that would take a lot of efforts to learn. Huang Yulei suddenly thought of a possibility and his face turned grim. That guy must have always known 13 slashes and just pretended he was a rookie in order to humiliate me. That must be the case. Otherwise, how could he learn 13 slashes after watching a dozen times? Huang Yulei bristled. If he simply lost, that was fine. However, he felt someone was targeting him, which made him feel terrible. However, Huang Yulei knew very well that he was no match of a soldier on warship who used 13 slashes even better than he did. Huang Yulei had no confidence to challenge the guy again. However, the failure was hard to swallow for Huang Yulei. After thinking for a while, Huang Yulei suddenly dialed a number with his comlink. Very soon, a red-haired young man the same age as Huang Yulei appeared in the holographic image. The young man smiled and said, "Yulei, you're now an evolver. Why didn't you throw a party to celebrate?" "Brother, we can talk later about the party. Is our big sister there?" asked Huang Yulei hurriedly. "Big sister went to the Queen restaurant for a show and will return in night. What do you need her for?" Suju looked at Huang Yulei in surprise, curious why the guy who feared his big sister the most would ask if she was there. "Nothing," said Huang Yulei quickly, waving his hand and letting out a sigh of relief. He then told Suju, "Brother, I won a gladiator today. You just evolved. Couldn't wait? Did someone beat you?" Suju said, grinning. It was normal for Huang Yulei to be beaten, since he had not accumulated many Geno points in Second God's Sanctuary yet. Huang Yulei blushed. Something as humiliating as this would have been his secret. However, a soldier on warship pissed him off so much that he wanted Suju to kick the guy's ass, which was why he must tell Suju what happened. Suju did not believe Huang Yulei at all. He grinned, "Yulei, if you want me to do you a favor, that is fine. Do not exaggerate, though. How is it even plausible that someone learned 13 slashes in 1 hour and beat you with it? That's why I am so mad. That person must already know 13 slashes and simply want to embarrass me. I cannot let this go." Whenever Huang Yulei thought of the matter, he couldn't help feeling upset. That is very likely. Since he knows 13 slashes, it is very likely that he is in Ares Martial Hall. However, the Martial Hall is too big and has many branches. Since you don't know that person, it is almost impossible to find out who he is. It must be someone you offended before, I believe, Suju pondered and said, "Brother, I just evolved. Who can I possibly offend? Even if I did, I would not be so stupid to offend someone who knows 13 slashes." Huang Yulei added, "Just log in on Gladiator. If that person leaves, it will be impossible to find him again. I don't have a holographic device nearby. Let me find one." "I must go now," said Suju. "Hurry then." Huang Yulei was afraid that a soldier on warship would log out. After more than half an hour, Suju found a service station and logged in Gladiator. Huang Yulei quickly sent Han Sen's ID to Suju and asked Suju to challenge him. Suju did as Huang Yulei told him, but found that Han Sen had already left Gladiator. Huang Yulei suddenly became upset and said, "Brother, I told you to hurry. Now he has left."
No worries.
"Didn't you say that he had 4 wins and more than 1,000 losses? He must be a frequent visitor, and I'm sure I could catch him someday," Suju said with a smile. Huang Yulei had to accept it. Han Sen quickly left Gladiator after beating Huang Yulei, because he wanted to teach Zhang Danfeng 13 slashes. He had promised Zhang Danfeng that he would find the friend a nice blade skill. Zhang Danfeng would not accept an S-class St. Hall license, and when he tried to teach Zhang Danfeng the skeleton's dagger skills, Zhang Danfeng could not grasp the essence. The skeleton's dagger skills were demanding on the user's flexibility and understanding of order. However, Zhang Danfeng always pursued a swift and fierce style, so it was only natural that the skeleton's skills did not fit him. 13 slashes, however, was very likely Zhang Danfeng's cup of tea. Han Sen was eager to teach it to Zhang Danfeng so that his friend could improve. Han Sen called Zhang Danfeng, who happened to be in the alliance, and showed him 13 slashes via the holographic image, which Zhang Danfeng loved. Praising the amazing skill, Zhang Danfeng asked Han Sen to teach him all about it. It was midnight when Han Sen finished teaching Zhang Danfeng. Planning to go to bed, Han Sen heard his comlink ringing. It was Yang Monli's number. Han Sen answered the call and saw Yang Monli's holographic image. "We have a difficult client, and no one could take care of him," Yang Monli said casually. Han Sen frowned and asked, "Even you? In more than a month, I will evolve and go to Second God's Sanctuary. So, you must take care of the things from now on," said Yang Monli, blinking. Yang Monli was a terrible liar. Whenever she lied, she would blink. The real reason that Yang Monli asked Han Sen to take care of the client was that she actually failed to do so. "Who is it?" Han Sen noticed Yang Monli's lie but did not want to expose her.
Yang Zikun, grandson of demigod Senator Yang Siwen.
Yang Monli then told Han Sen everything about Yang Zikuan. Joan had only turned 16 and entered God's Sanctuary 2 weeks ago. He was randomly sent to Steel Armor Shelter, and the Steel Armor Special Squad immediately received an order from the management to provide all the necessary assistance to Yang Zikuan and keep him safe. Growing up in a prominent family, Yang Zikuan was well-educated and well-mannered. However, as a high-born young man, despite his courteous and modest manner, he was quite strong-willed. He would not change his mind no matter what other people said. Obviously, Yang Zikuan was too confident in himself, always looking for challenges. Having only been in God's Sanctuary for a few days, he was already looking to hunt mutant creatures. Gambler followed Yang Zikuan for a couple of days and was almost scared to death by the kid. Yang Monli had tried talking to Yang Zikuan and asked him to be more down-to-earth, which did not work at all. Epiphanies only come to you when you're struggling between life and death, which is the essence of martial arts. Yang Monli did not know where Yang Zikuan had heard this, but she failed to talk the kid out of it. If Yang Zikuan was not sent by the management, Yang Monli would not care if he wanted to risk his life. However, if anything happened to Yang, the special squad would suffer. "I'll be in charge. Tomorrow morning, I will go meet the kid." Han Sen hung up the comlink with a smile. The next day, Han Sen entered Steel Armor Shelter before dawn. To his surprise, Yang Zikuan was already practicing boomerang. Yang Monli introduced Han Sen to Yang Zikuan, who was polite and very easy to like. In Han Sen's eyes, he was just a boy. "Mr. Han, if it is possible, I hope that you could arrange for someone to take me into Dark Swamp." Yang Zikuan's words made Han Sen frown. Even those who had maxed out on their mutant geno points would not take Dark Swamp lightly, because few people could make it back, let alone Yang Zikuan, who only entered God's Sanctuary 2 weeks ago. Before Yang Monli spoke, Han Sen gestured her to stop. "Yang Zikuan, why do you want to go to the Dark Swamp?" asked Han Sen with a smile. "There are a lot of toxic bugs in the Dark Swamp, which would be the perfect targets for me to practice my boomerang." Yang Zikuan patted his boomerang kit, which contained 24 boomerangs, all of which were expensive products with a high content of Z-steel. "Now I understand. It is indeed a great spot to practice your boomerang skills. However, I don't think your boomerang skill level was high enough for you to go there. Just practice on the copper-toothed beasts in the forest nearby," said Han Sen casually. "You haven't seen how good I am with boomerang. How can you make the judgment so soon?" Yang Zikuan frowned, unhappy about Han Sen's arbitrary decision. "Let's say it is the instinct of the boomerang player," said Han Sen with a smile. "You also use boomerang?" Yang Zikuan looked Han Sen up and down, doubting if he was serious. Han Sen did not reply the kid, but said, "Let's do this. I will point at a target. If you could hit the target, I will let someone lead you to the Dark Swamp. If not, you will do what I told you." "Fair." "Yes, but the target must be within 60 feet from me." Yang Zikuan had a lot of confidence in his boomerang skills. "You can go as close as you want." Han Sen brought the kid to the shooting range of Bullseye, where there were many targets. Han Sen put a target in front of another with 1 foot between them. The targets were both round in shape and about 2 feet in diameter. With the two targets aligned, the second target could not be seen from the front. Yang Zikuan was confused, and so were the onlookers. No one knew what Han Sen wanted to do. Can you hit the bull's eye from such a distance? Han Sen walked to Yang Zikuan, pointing at the targets. Of course.
Yang Zikun answered.
I am talking about the bull's eye of the target in the back. Could you hit it from here? Asked Han Sen. Yang Zikuan frowned and said to Han Sen, this is unfair. The two targets were so close that even with a curve, it is impossible to hit the bull's eye of the target in the back. What if I tell you that I can do that?
Han Sen asked Yang Zikun.
Are you going to penetrate the target in the front? If you do it that way, I can do it as well. Yang Zikuan pursed his lips and said, if the boomerang touched the first target, call me a loser, said Han Sen casually. Okay. If you could stand here and hit the bullseye on the target in the back without the boomerang touching the first target, I will listen to you no matter what you say, said Yang Zikuan slowly after thinking for a while. You're quite thoughtful. Han Sen smiled and asked Yang Zikuan, is it okay if I stand right here? Yes.
Yang Zikun looked at Han Sen, puzzled.
The confidence of the man made Yang Zikuan question himself. But Yang Zikuan still believed that there was no way Han Sen could hit the target in the back. The two targets were so close together that even the boomerang followed a curve, it could only hit the edge of the target in the back. Yang Zikuan believed there was no way that Han Sen could hit the bull's eye. However, since Han Sen was so determined, Yang Zikuan was curious what he was about to do to achieve this. Yang Zikuan was certain that Han Sen was about to use some tricks. Han Sen, on the other hand, was not thinking about plotting against Yang Zikuan at all. Taking out a Z-Steel Ghost Butterfly Boomerang, Han Sen threw it at the target.